Hello, hello. Welcome to the Mother Days podcast. I am your host, Sarah Wright Olsen.
And I'm Teresa Palmer. Oh my gosh, I have roped in my friend to be on the podcast. We have Claire Holt today.
I roped in. I've been waiting for you to ask me, secretly hoping that one day you guys will ask me to do this. So I'm thrilled. I manifested it.
Thank you to our sponsor, Needed, for powering this week's episode. Use code MOTHERDAYS, D-A-Z-E, for 20% off your first month with Needed's premium perinatal supplements.
You manifested it. Oh, you speak our language, girl.
Yeah, of course.
You did. It just popped right down. The universe just like plopped it right in our laps, and we were like, oh, Claire, we have to ask Claire.
You know, it's so funny when
gosh,
Teresa originally asked me, I had just found out I was pregnant with my third, and I was like, I hope she's really busy and forgets, so that when she comes back around, I can be pregnant and talk about it and not have to hide it. So this is perfect.
Oh, yes.
See, it did work out the most perfect way.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm going to do a little intro on Claire. For most of you guys, I'm sure that you know that Claire was in The Vampire Diaries and the originals and Pretty Little Liars. Recently
just the biggest teen shows in the world.
Just all the land. I mean, pretty much everything that The Legacy something. I'm like pretty much everything that that's teen involved.
If some like teenage supernatural show is happening, I'm like banging down the door trying to get a job. That's my niche.
Girl.
She's casting spells. She's biting people.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yes, being bitten. You would kill it at conventions. I mean, you could literally just live off conventions for the rest of your life.
See, Teresa's planning out your 401k right now.
I don't want to blow up my spot here, but I do a fair few of them.
Yeah, I'm like, hello. I would be just like roping it in, like, woo,
oh my God. We need to organize a Claire Holt Vampire Diary convention right now.
You're going to get about 3 people.
Oh my God, shut up.
That's perfect. Well, okay, so I'm gonna also say that you are a mama of 2 with a third on the way.
Yes.
And I just discovered that Claire's second baby, so her baby girl, was born just a couple of days before winter. So September 12th, 2020, and winter was September 15th, 2020, which is so crazy. Gosh. I feel like so connected to you because we went through so much that year.
It was intense. Did you have a home birth with her, or was it a hospital birth?
No, I ended up having a hospital birth with my Dr. Goldberg, who I love so much. I know. Love him so much. Did you have a home birth or did you have a hospital birth?
No, I had a hospital birth, and it was long and arduous, and there were all kinds of issues because they were just understaffed because of COVID, and it was longer than my first.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And do you think that has something to do with the fact that like you're going into an environment that feels really different because you're in the middle of the pandemic?
Yes.
I feel like my cervix would just close over and be like, nope, I'm done.
It was it's interesting because my first son, I had a shoulder dystocia with him. So they told me with my daughter that I needed to be induced at 39 weeks. And I was like, okay, well, I'll trust my doctors. I need to be induced. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think that any part of me was really ready. With my son, I kind of started going into labor, and then I went in and, they helped me along, but like the process had started. With my daughter, it wasn't there at all. I didn't have a membrane sweep or any of that. And so I think that contributed, but also they were understaffed. Everyone was kind of stressed. I had the mask on the whole time. I couldn't have friends and family around like the first time. I had the most beautiful experience the first time with everyone coming in and helping. And this time it was, thank God I could have my husband there because I know people didn't, but it was very tense, I felt. And so it just was long and a lot harder. And it was not anywhere near as easy or beautiful as my first, I think.
Wow.
Wow.
And with your first, did you have your first in a hospital or
I did.
at home?
I did, but I had a really beautiful experience. I had a doula and all my family was there and all my husband's family, and they came in and out, and I could walk around and walk the halls, and I just felt it was so different. It was just such a like light energy. And of course, like, you know, we were in a pandemic. I understand why it had to be the way it was. But I think obviously that contributed to it being longer. Yeah.
It's so funny when we walk around seeing like little kids who are like 2.5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always thinking, wow, what was that birth experience like for those people? You know, like what a wild time. And you know what I always worry about? Well, do I worry about it? But I do in some ways, is the women who became mothers during that time for the first time who didn't have community around them, who were just isolated. That is mortifying to me because I lent on my community so much when I had Bodhi, and you're a part of that community, Claire. And it was so nice to have friends around and just like to be able to go to Mummy and Me classes. And I just feel like so many people didn't get to have that first experience.
Yeah.
With motherhood during that time, they had a different experience and it was their story, and that's fine. But yeah, sometimes I'm like, oh,
I know. I'm also thankful I had another child because, you know, Elle wasn't isolated. She had a sibling. She could interact and play. And so I think about the kids who didn't have siblings and they were like just at home and didn't get that social interaction. They didn't get to see people's faces in school, and just, you know, I think it was really tough. So I'm definitely grateful for like small parts of it. I'm grateful for the fact that like we lived in a bubble and I didn't have to worry about having a million visitors right after she was born, because I did that when my son was born and I was an absolute mess. Like, you know, within an hour or two of coming home from the hospital, I had people in the front door coming over and wanting to hug the baby and so much stimulus, and it really didn't work for me. So it was nice the second time to just sort of ease into it all. But, you know, it was tough as well.
You know what was so great? After I had my first baby, my midwife, without me even knowing this, put a note on my door, and it said, thank you so much for coming over to visit. Please only stay for 15 minutes. And when you come, make sure mom has had a snack, do the laundry, fold something, and then help pick up the house. Like something like that is what it said.
Amazing.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that I had no idea. And every time somebody would come over, they'd be like folding clothes and like bringing me food. And I had no clue. And I was just like, gosh, everyone's so helpful. And then finally my husband was like, oh yeah, the midwife put a note on the door. And I was like,
I remember the note. I remember it. I was like, what a great idea.
That is a great idea.
Yeah.
For me, it was the time limit. Like I had some people come over and they would stay for like 3 hours. I was so tired and I felt like I had to entertain them. And it's like a beautiful thing to have people come and visit you and, you know, show love to you and the baby, but like, you got to keep it short, in and out.
Oh, for
100%. You posted such an amazing photo. In fact, you've posted 2 amazing things like around birth and pregnancy and postpartum that have just gone viral. And I've seen this photo that you posted over and over and over again. It always pops up in like my feed, like for you, because obviously I'm always Googling baby things.
Pregnancy, babies.
But it was this really candid, vulnerable moment of you crying, holding your newborn son.
Oh, yes. I saw this too.
Yes. I think every person saw it. And I remember like hearing it about it on the news as well. Like I think like Mamma Mia did an article, like a bunch of people did an article about it. And I was like, how amazing to just crack open and show your vulnerability and show the hardship, to say postpartum isn't easy. This transition into motherhood isn't easy. Could you talk about your decision to put that out there and what you went through in those early days?
For sure. So I shared once before something really vulnerable about miscarriage. I know we've spoken a lot about it, Teresa, because we did the documentary together with Tahina.
Yeah.
But after I had my miscarriage, which was my first pregnancy, it was kind of earth-shattering for me. And I didn't know how I was going to get through it. I thought it was all my fault. I thought that, you know, I was never going to have a family. It was really difficult. And the way that I did get through and did find healing was, you know, Googling and going on the internet and finding blog posts and articles that other women had written about it. And I felt so much less alone. So in that moment, I decided, okay, I'm going to share my experience because maybe someone else will feel less alone if I do. And I had this really beautiful response from people. And I think there was something like 40,000 comments on this picture from people sharing their stories about, men, women, everyone, my brother, my sister, anyone. Obviously the brother didn't have miscarriage, but my sister had one or my wife had one, or like I did, or just so many vulnerable people being open. And it was like this incredibly cathartic healing moment for me. And so I made a commitment then that I was going to always be as open and honest as I could about the journey that I was having. And I'd had so much anxiety throughout that pregnancy because of the loss. And I thought, okay, I just need him to get here. And when he's here, everything's going to be okay. And he'll be in my arms and he'll be safe. And little did I know, it was the opposite. And when he arrived, I felt 1,000 times more pressure because it was the most precious thing in the world to me. And I didn't know how to take care of him, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I felt like I was failing at every moment. And all I wanted to do was to keep him safe. And so when I started to struggle with breastfeeding, I was like, I can't be the only one. I can't be the only one feeling this way after having a baby. And my mother was living with me at the time. And I remember saying to her, I don't understand why this is so hard. And she was like, love, it wasn't like that for me. And so I don't know how to help. And she was, of course, loving and supportive, but she was like, I breastfed you all for 13 months. I'm one of 4. And she's like, and it just worked. And I think for some people it doesn't, and for some it does. And if you want to share, you should talk about being one of the people that is struggling with it. And so I remember posting a picture after a really tough feed where I was just in so much pain and I was so nervous that he wasn't getting enough food. I later found out that he had a pretty severe allergy. And so he was in pain and he was struggling, and I didn't know, and he didn't know, none of us knew. But the whole time I was like, why is this so hard? Why am I feeling like this is me? And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do it again, because the last time I was having such a hard time and I was struggling so much, I shared and it was amazing. And so I did the same thing, and I just snapped a random photograph of me crying with my, he actually looked so peaceful, which was a really beautiful juxtaposition of the pain that I was in and the peace he was feeling. But it was another moment where so many women stepped up for me, and they were shared their story and told me that, it really sucks in the beginning sometimes. And just, you can keep going if you want, but you also don't have to keep going if it's too hard, and you have options, and we're here for you. And just I still get goosebumps thinking about it, because I really don't think that I would have ended up in the same place I am today without that community and love and support from people. So I still to this day try my best to share what I can and to be open and honest, because I think, it's lacking in social media. And I think that you two do a beautiful job of sharing the realities of motherhood. But, some people make it look easy, and it's just not.
We always say it's the highlight reel. If you're sitting in a place of comparison with someone else's highlight reel, or they've quickly curated a photo, wait, come over here, kids, get dressed in this. I was looking at a post, someone I follow the other day, and I was like, wow, are their kids, are they always dressed like that? Is it always beiges and linens and chunky knits and little, and I was like,
that's my dream, by the way. My kids they're never dressed like that.
I thought it was going to be that way. And I'm like, oh my God, mine's always stained and hand-me-downs. And
same. Well, they want to dress themselves, don't they? They're never picking a chunky knit.
Esme only wants to wear her Super Soccer Star t-shirt. and by the way, it's a hand-me-down from a friend's kid. She didn't even do Super Soccer Stars.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
That's amazing.
She loves it. And I'm like, that's the one.
You got to do it.
Out of all these
Bodhi's bright blue Minecraft t-shirt that's so crazy. And I remember trying to take a photo. I was doing a photo for Lovewell, my company. And I was
gosh, yes.
I wonder if we should go more neutral. And I was just like, oh, who cares? Who honestly cares?
I know.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Thank you so much for creating a platform that you're willing to share and willing to be so honest and open because you have got a gazillion, literally gazillions of followers on Instagram. Right. And all those people are looking up to you being like, how does she do things?
That's
and
right.
you would have created a safe space for all those people to see you and say, oh, if someone like Claire, our idol, is going through this, then that actually makes me feel less alone. And then also just having all the comment section where people can be supporting each other. And I'm sure you found like other people would reply to other comments and offer support.
Yeah, and that's the most beautiful thing. Like anyone who shared a particularly tragic story or like that they were really going through it, they would receive hundreds of other comments from other people that, you know, that they would never have interacted with before, probably just like telling them that they're not alone. And I think that's it's what I remind myself every time I'm like, Instagram's the devil. It's, you know, there are so many parts of it that are beautiful and I just have to like focus on that and not the stuff that like gives me the ick.
I know. It's true. I mean, there's a lot out there. It's hard because what's great, what you've done though, is that you have your blog, The Corner, because then people can like click in on something and go, okay, I'm going to go see, like I found out what baby you're having when I was like, looking, I was like, I'm going to watch this cute video. It's amazing.
Yeah. I try and go more in depth there because I think, you know, obviously like there's a place for lighthearted stuff on Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is. But, you know, I really do love to write. And so I actually wrote something today about that I'm going to post tomorrow about how I find pregnancy to be really destabilizing. And I struggle a lot with it and with the lack of control and with, you know, the anxiety and I go in depth about it and I talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly and everything. And honestly, you guys also inspire me. Like your Zen Mama is a beautiful community where I was just saying earlier, Teresa, I would go back every time I'm pregnant. I go back and I read your like week by week breakdown. I'm like, oh, she was feeling like that at week 18. So that's so normal. I'm doing fine. You're like my barometer.
Yes.
I used to do it with another woman who was doing pregnancy vlogs before me. I was like, oh my God, what week is she up to? Like, what's she going through? Because it's awesome. It's such a fun part of the journey is to like hear other people's stories.
Yep. And you get to sort of like, you just feel like you've got a friend going through it right there with you, even if you don't know the person. And so that kind of inspired me today. And mine was a little more intense than I wanted to do. I guess it was the hormones were swinging low this morning when I was writing. Probably should have saved it for a different day. But then again, I was like, no, this is actually what I'm feeling. Like I'm struggling in my body. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling, you know, I'm feeling like I can't keep up. I'm used to like having energy and being active and I want to sleep all day and I don't like that. And I don't like feeling that way. And so I just was like, you know what, I'm just going to share it. I'm going to put it out there. I'm sure there are going to be people who judge. There always are. But like maybe someone will find comfort in it.
Absolutely. So if you listen to our show, you know that Sarah and I are baby obsessed. We keep trying to convince the old hubbaroons to have more babies with us, which hopefully they will. But I wanted to share this crazy story because, look, I've been wanting to have kids since I was a teenager, really. But when I was really seriously thinking about it, I went to my doctor. I was probably 26, 27, and he was like, okay, so how long have you been having prenatals? And I don't know if this was anyone else's experience, but I was like, wait, what? Don't you just take that when you get pregnant? And he was like, no, the recommendation is that you're supposed to take prenatal supplements 3 to 4 months before even wanting to conceive. So that really threw me for a loop. And I think, you know, there's that added pressure of just knowing that pregnancy and postpartum are some of the most nutritionally demanding times in a woman's life. And of course, we know that our baby's health now and for years to come, it's really truly influenced by our nutrient status. So then I was like, okay, where do I go? Like, what do I do?
And there's so many prenatals out there. But if you're anything like me, I get so nauseous when taking a pill. In my first couple of pregnancies, I would get so sick. And so in my last pregnancy, my friend was like, oh, I use this brand called Needed, and they have a prenatal multi. It's for before, during, and after. And it's a vanilla powder. So you can put it on your food, you can drink it, you can use it before, during, and after pregnancy. And it's all the nutrients that you need, which is just so fantastic.
And no nausea. I can tell you guys, no nausea. Yeah, it was amazing. I had it with Prairie and it was such a game changer. I remember feeling so afraid in the mornings. Like I'd eat my breakfast and I'd have this huge pill and I was like, oh, here it comes. I'm going to get sick for the next few hours.
Get stuck in my throat.
Yeah, I know.
And Needed was actually designed by women's health experts that test nutrient levels based on the latest research and in-practice insights from thousands of women. And it's the #1 nutrition brand recommended and used by more than 4,000 women health experts, midwives, doctors, functional medicine doctors, OBGYNs. When I found that out, I was completely blown away. But this is something that so many of my friends have been talking about lately.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. And we love that Needed also offers a premium supplement for every single stage of motherhood. So from egg quality support for women trying to conceive, shout out to Sarah, woo woo, to a lactation support plan for breastfeeding mums like me who hasn't stopped breastfeeding since 2014.
There's just so much on the journey to motherhood that we can't control, but nutrition is a big one that we actually can control.
Yeah, guys. And now you can join us on the Needed journey. Head over to thisisneeded.com and use code MOTHERDAYS, that's Mother Days with a Z, for 20% off your first month of Needed products.
What are some of the anxieties that come up for you during pregnancy?
So always in the first trimester, I have this crazy anxiety around loss. So I take a million pregnancy tests and every day I make sure the line is getting darker. I line them up and compare them and I'm like, well, this one.
I'm a pee on the stick addict.
I can't stop doing it. And then, leading up to the first ultrasound and like going to the ultrasound, I panic if the baby's not like days ahead. If it's like 2 or 3 days behind where I think it should be, then I'm like, oh, that's a terrible sign. And then, if I feel really sick one day and not quite so sick the next, I'm like, that's a bad sign again. I just have everything is me kind of preparing myself for loss. And I feel so sad that that's how I am because I've never had, that was my first pregnancy that I lost. So I didn't have the experience of ever having like it's going to be okay pregnancy or it works out and everything's great.
Yes.
But it also like helps me to relate to other people. So that's another special part of it. But then, when I get into this sort of like genetic testing around 10, 11 weeks, if that's that for me, I start to like relax a little bit and then the anatomy scan. But this pregnancy in particular, I've actually had to take like a lot of medication. Firstly, I have really terrible seasonal allergies. And so I like literally can't breathe and my eyes swell up. So I had to take tons of like Benadryl and antihistamine. And then I got pneumonia when I was 11 weeks pregnant. So I had to take like hardcore antibiotics. And this whole time, the anxiety for me has been, have I taken something to make myself better that's done something to my son? And that's like a crazy part of the motherhood journey, which is like, we always put our children before ourselves, right? Like I just think that's just the nature of being a mother. And this time around, I'm like, okay, I have to take something that's like, I could end up in hospital if I don't take these antibiotics, or I could in a really bad place for both me and the baby. But like, this is crazy strong antibiotic medication in the first trimester. So this has been kind of my journey this time, which is like, I think it's a theme for my whole life, which is like, I feel guilt a lot. And so the guilt I've felt of like having to do things for myself that I know are necessary, but I don't know the outcome.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever know the outcome, right? In any pregnancy, you don't know anything. Before the baby comes, you never know, but you try and mitigate risk, right? You do everything you can to make sure that the pregnancy is going to continue in a healthy way. And the more risk you take, the more the like anxiety compounds, I think.
Totally. And I would say that for me, nighttime is so hard. Like nighttime is when my brain starts to go.
Same.
And so then as soon as you get closer and closer towards the like, you know, the last like month or two or whatever,
gosh.
it's like harder to sleep. So then it's like, you wake up the next morning and I was like, did I seriously like go in a tailspin last night about somebody breaking into my house and like doing all like, there was just like so many
scenarios.
Totally.
Yes.
Your like head goes to so many crazy. I remember thinking like, you know, same thing. Like I had to take antibiotics for something when I was pregnant with my second baby. And I remembered like being like, oh my gosh, is it okay for me to do this? I remember tail spinning. And then my doctor was like, can you chill? Like, you're good. It is fine. Everything is fine.
It's
And I was
very
like,
nice to have a doctor like that.
I remember having like being so crazily violently ill with Poet. I was about like maybe 18 weeks, and it was literally like the kind of food poisoning that's coming out both ends at the same time. It's like from the front, from the back, and you don't know like
wait,
which
was this
area.
Sundance?
Oh no, this is that story I told you about Zoe Saldana, how I saw her at the airport and she dropped me home, but the whole time she didn't know that I was having severe food poisoning, but I was trying to just like keep it cool and casual in the car with her. But her driver was like dropping me to a hotel, fully sweating, trying not to fart, like the whole thing. Had to like run up to the clerk at the hotel and be like, please just let me in. I'll like put my credit card. Like I really need to go to the toilet and I'm pregnant. Just let me in. And then I literally like blew up the bathroom and I didn't know which like whether to put my bum on the toilet or put my head in the toilet. I was like, which one? I think I prefer to like clean up vomit. But I remember at the time being like, oh no, how is my baby doing with this? And my doctor was like, that little baby, your body will do everything in its power to make sure that baby is okay, that the little baby is the priority. So mum can get so crazy ill and the baby is generally pretty protected.
Totally fine.
And my doctor kept saying that to me because like it happened a few times and he was like, just chill.
It's so hard. We all do it, Claire. That's what I was getting at.
True.
Is that we all do it. Like it's just like crazy how we tailspin about these things, but it's very, very normal. So like talking about it helps us so much to release it.
Yes. Gosh, there's something to be said about being a chill mom, isn't there? Because
yes,
totally. We always say that.
If you're chill, the baby's chill, and I was not chill.
But like, you know, for me, it's so funny hearing like the baby sleeping through at 9 weeks. I'm like, that actually just never was the case for me. Like, even like Prairie's up. Like last night, she was up like 3 times in the middle of the night, and even Poet wakes up like once a night. But I'm chill. I am chill.
You are a chill mom.
So even though I'm not probably sleeping the way like a lot of other people are sleeping, I am not just like, it is what it is. And this isn't forever.
Yes.
And I've actually, my body really just acclimatized to the fact that like I get up a few times. Well, I feel like for me, it's going to be forever because I'm not going to stop having babies.
I mean, you're a superhero, Tez. So we can't.
Oh my
you
God.
are unnaturally capable. Sarah and I were just talking about this before you came on. Like, I've never met a person on planet Earth who is able to achieve as much as you are and still remain sane. So I don't know
if I'm sane. I'm pretty wacky.
I wonder if you've ever had the experience. Like I was just talking to a friend of mine whose kids were going through adenovirus, which is what we went through like earlier this year. And I was wondering, like, has Teresa ever had a moment like this? But Eric came into the kitchen one day when we were like 17 days in on this virus. And I was sitting there rocking Winter, looking out the window with tears just pouring down my face. And he was like, okay. Should you wanna? And I was just like, crying silently, holding the baby. I was like, I don't know if she's okay. I know I'm not okay. I haven't slept in 17 days. Like, but like those moments where you just break, you know? Like
that was me yesterday. I had that day yesterday.
You did?
My husband had to like, because I'm not the one in our family that generally does this. It's always like me being like, babe, you got this, to Mark. But yesterday he was like, oh my God, we were on the way to F45. I woke up and I was told that I had an audition, a chemistry read at 10:30 p.m. that night. And they gave me a new scene, which I hadn't learned. I'd never seen it before. And there was so much dialogue. It's like huge, big paragraphs. And I was like, wait, like I had plans today. I had other things I had to do today. And all of a sudden, everything has to get put to the side. I have to find a studio to shoot this thing in at 10:30 p.m. tonight.
That's
and
very
I just was
mean
like,
of them to give you a new scene.
I was like, I'm done.
Shorter notice.
Oh my God. And I like, we were on the way to F45 and I was just like, I don't. And he was like, okay, you're not doing F45. What is going on? Like and I started like panicking about so many other things and he had to talk me off the ledge. He was like, just relax. Like, it's cool. And I'm like, the roles are reversed. You're enjoying this.
You got to give him a moment every now and then.
Oh my God. So Claire, I remember talking to you probably maybe a year ago and you're like, am I going to have a third? Am I not? Am I done? Okay. So having another baby.
Yes.
I mean, first of all, being pregnant when you have little toddlers, because your kids are still really young.
They're little.
That's tiring in and of itself.
Yes.
Talk us through like the decision to have a third baby, how you're feeling about it, finding out you're having a little boy and the kids and their excitement. I want to just hear the whole thing.
I mean, so I was pretty sure that I was a no towards the end of last year. I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to survive this, but because they were still at the age where like one was running into traffic and another was trying to stick a fork in a socket. And like, I was like, how on earth do people do this? And then at the beginning of the year, this year, I had this moment where I was like, oh, they're a little easier. I think like if I tell them something, they listen and we can go to dinner. And I'm having this moment at dinner where I'm like, wow, I used to look at families with other kids at dinner and wonder how they did it and how their child sat there through a meal without like throwing spaghetti on the walls and stuff. And so I got to that point and then I'm telling you, like, this sounds very woo-woo and wacky, but a baby came to me and I thought it was a boy right away. And I had this feeling that I had this like little boy around me who really just wanted to come. And,
oh my God.
And I started feeling, I remember talking to my therapist about it. And I was like, I know this sounds crazy. I know like it's not normal to say this, but like, I really think that there is a little boy. And she was like, okay, so trust it. And I was like, but this and that, and what if, and the timing. And, I wanted to do this with work and I wanted to do this and it wouldn't work. She's like, listen, if you're feeling that way and it's that strong and, I love being a mom. I know I can give a loving home to children. I know my husband loves being a dad. So like, I'm not worried about the environment that I can raise a child in. So she said to me, you have an environment and the capability to do it. Trust that. And so I was like, okay, we're on. And I told my husband, he was so happy because he'd wanted a third. But he's like, he is obsessed with being a dad. And so he'd wanted a third, but of course, like left it up to me. And
that's cute.
So I told him and he was like, great. And then I took it as part of a sign because that month we tried, I got pregnant right away. And
oh my gosh, that baby was really around you.
That baby was like, I'm coming.
Come on, mom. I'm coming straight in. Wow.
We love woo-woo.
Okay, great.
We're all, we're all about the woo-woo.
I know you love a woo-woo
all about
moment.
It.
Yeah, so this, and then like when I got pregnant, I was like, it's a boy. Like I know for sure it's a boy.
Oh.
However, like in the past with my son, I thought that he was a girl. So I was like, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. This time, like I feel really sure. And so
oh my God,
I was so excited when I found out. I was a little bit in shock because I didn't expect it to happen so quickly. And, I'd been taking all these antihistamines because I had such crazy allergies. And I was like, maybe it won't stick. Maybe something will happen. And so I had all of that anxiety and I was really ill this time. Like as I think the most sick I've been in any of my pregnancies, just so unbearably nauseous. And so that kind of I mean, that was tough for me because I felt like I was failing as a mum and a wife. I felt like I couldn't play with my kids the way that I normally did. I felt, they kept my baby, my sweet JJ. He's so sensitive and he's so in tune. And he just knew that something was off with me and he kept asking me. And I will say, here's another woo-woo thing. A week before I found out I was pregnant, he put his head on my tummy and he said, Mum, there's a baby in there.
Oh,
I told my husband,
what?
he will back me up. It was so, I was like, did you just hear what he said? And my husband was like, oh, okay. And like, obviously I hadn't shared with him that we were trying or whatever. Anyway,
I love
it
this
was
stuff
really
so
beautiful.
much.
And so he
gosh,
kept asking me, are you having a baby? Is there a baby? And I wasn't ready to like tell him because I don't know why. I felt at first I was like, well, I'll tell him after the first ultrasound. And then I was like, oh no, I'm not ready yet. I'm not going to tell him yet. So he knew I was so sick and he kept saying, why is there a baby in your tummy? And then finally I had a 9-week ultrasound and my husband and I decided that we would tell the kids if that was all good and that looked good, we would tell the kids then. And so he asked me that morning, why are you going to the doctor today? I said, I'm going to the doctor for my tummy. And, he goes, is there a baby? And I said, I don't know. We have to check. We have to take a picture and see. And if we take the picture and we see that there's one there, then there is. So he'd been all day, he'd been waiting and he ran home from school. My husband picked him up. He ran in the front door and he said, Mom, is there a baby? And I was like, yeah, baby, there's a baby. It was the most beautiful moment of my life without like a doubt. He was so beside himself and he kept kissing my tummy and he kept saying to me, he kept saying, I'm going to take such good care of you when you're done in there. And like it was so, so, so special. And so that kind of like moment just took all of the tough stuff, the sickness and everything away. And he's continued to be that way throughout. And even my daughter, she took a like second to come around. She's more of a hard nut to crack, that one. She's very fun. She's just such a character and she's amazing.
She's a middle child.
But she was nonchalant, She's like, I'll see what he's like when he comes out and then I'll decide if I like him. But she's actually really like both of them now every night. They want to kiss my belly before they go to sleep. And they like, it's just so beautiful. So I'm really actually so excited to be. To experience
That's so emotional. That story is so emotional. I like got tears in my eyes because it's so beautiful. I mean, he felt that so deep.
It made me feel it was meant to be, like all of this feels meant to be just because James had said that and I had felt this baby and, despite like the crazy difficult first trimester I had, touch wood, everything seems okay so far. And it really feels like this guy is like meant to come to our family.
Oh, how beautiful.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something before that like resonates with me because, I think the heart wants what the heart wants, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just recently like turned a corner, I would say a month ago, where I was like, oh my God, I am ready. I am ready for another one. Like it's like my kids hit 20 months and I'm like I'm on. It's on, But I also then like the rational part of me is like, well, financially and then also like career-wise, like should I not ride the momentum of the work I've been doing and it doesn't really make sense. Like how did you reconcile? I mean, you're still acting, you've got these other side things that you're also doing. Did you have to move past an inner voice being like, this isn't a good idea?
I still haven't really moved past it. It's been the case to me since my first pregnancy. I've had this little dark voice being like, it's your career's over. You can kiss it goodbye now. Like everything you worked hard for, it's gone. And I definitely felt like after I had my son, it was difficult, and I think more because I wasn't ready. I tried to rush back into stuff and I wasn't there mentally or physically. And I'm also, you do such an amazing job, Tez, of like bringing everyone with you. And I think that that's so awesome that you can do that. And for me, I just haven't found the like ability to be able to do that yet and bring everyone with me when I travel. And, my husband has a job that kind of keeps him in Miami for most of the year. And it's hard for him to sort of pack up and go wherever.
Yeah.
And so I've had moments where I'm like, oh, do I just give up? Like, do I just stop altogether and find something else? Because I'm also not willing to be away from my kids for months on end. I just like, it's just not something that I have in me. And then I'm just like, okay, relax. Like, I don't know what tomorrow looks like. I definitely don't know what 3 years time looks like. So I just have to like try and be in the moment now and find little projects that I can do to satisfy the creative side of myself and satisfy that part of myself that loves to act or, write or whatever it is. I continue to keep myself busy with something, but I also feel like I'm making the right decision for my family right now, which is like, okay, I'm going to kind of try and stay put with them so that I don't have to be away from them. And then maybe one day if the opportunity comes up and I can travel and they can come with me, or they're, off living their lives and they don't need me anymore. And, if that happens, that would be amazing. But I just try not to think too far into the future in the sense that like it's done, because that would be really sad for me. I don't know that I'm ready to say that it's done. I don't know that I'm ready to say that I want this huge career either. Like I really don't know what I want. So I'm just doing my best to stay present and like think about how lucky I am that I get to just be with my kids all the time. And they're like my pride and joy. Sometimes I just think I'm going to explode. Like I look at them, the cute aggression. You're like,
the cute aggression.
Every single part of your body. That's how I feel. Yes.
You know what kind of mum I am? I am the kind of mum who's like, I'm going to make baby books every single year for my children. And I've been saying that from about 2014. Do you know how many baby books I've made?
0, I'm guessing.
Well, up until now, 0. I had really good intentions.
I know. Same. No, me too. I like really started it with my first, and then I was like sort of shoving things into it from my second. And then this time around, I decided to do it totally different.
Well, thank God for our amazing partners at Once Upon, because they make it so easy to make a photo book. Like it literally took me 10 minutes. They have this amazing app that you download. You can just get it from the App Store or Google Play. And you can just pull so many photos. And in fact, my favorite thing about it, it's got this feature where let's say you select 150 photos, because you can actually have up to 594 photos. So let's say you pick 500 photos. It populates it for you. And then actually it has a tool where you can move the different photos around. It suggests different layouts. You can have a full page blown up, which is my favorite.
Yeah,
so it's a big featured page. And then you can choose the finish of your pages as well. So I like the matte finish. Which one did you pick?
Yeah, I chose the matte too. It's very minimalistic. Like it's so beautiful. And the other cool thing is that you can collaborate. So like I collaborated with Eric to get some of his photos. And so with the collaboration feature, you can, both put in your pictures. And the other thing that I love is that I did one of the pages as like a writing page. And so I wrote like a sort of shortened version of her birth story at the beginning of my book that I made for winter. And it was for her like first 3 years. And I kind of just dumped all the photos from the first 3 years, and because they were like already in the timeline that way.
Yes.
And then I wrote her story, and it was like the sweetest thing ever to be able to, I was like, oh, okay, I kind of did make her a baby book.
I know. And it's just like, for me, this is the practical way to make a baby book. Like I think I had intentions of like cutting locks of hair and keeping little fingernails and like the umbilical cord stump and all the things. And I'm like, okay, I'm a busy working mum of 4. What is something that is just easy, straightforward? I could do it in 10 minutes and boom, they have a book. They're reading their little stories. They've got the little pictures, and it's so meaningful.
So meaningful. So you guys can actually go on the Once Upon app and put in code TMD25 and get a discount and make your own book. And you can do it for birthdays, holidays, baby books, small moments, anything in your life that you're like, maybe I just have a folder of pictures from the last like 3 months and I just want to categorize them and put them on the shelf for the kids. It's an amazing way to do it. And it makes it really simple. And if you're in the US or Australia, they have shipping facilities in both places, which also makes it very convenient.
Yes, which I love so much because obviously I'm in Australia. So I know that my book is being shipped from Australia, which minimizes climate impact. So hello, another tick, tick, tick.
So you guys can make your book. You can make it on your phone, your tablet, your computer, which is very convenient. And just go to the Once Upon app, put in TMD25 for your discount. And we hope you love it.
Oh, well, thanks for tapping into that because like Sarah and I do talk about it. I don't know if we've talked about it like at length on the podcast, but yeah, it's something like I think so many women and families who are discussing like having children, they have to talk about, all right, what is the workflow going to look like when we introduce kids into this dynamic? And does one person pause? Does one person continue? Do we pivot? Do we start our own business so we're working from home more? And I feel like I've tried to like do a bunch of different things and sometimes it really works and other times it doesn't. But I also have the feeling that you have, my career's over, like the negative self-talk. My career's over, my career's over. Like I've had that same little noisy part of my brain in the last like 10 years. I think it pops up for everyone. So thank you for talking about that because it's interesting.
I had a moment right after I had James where I came home from Whole Foods and he must have been actually 5 or 6 months old. And my mum was there again at the time. And I remember dropping the grocery bags and just going, I'm a loser. Like everything's gone. Everything that I worked for since I was 16 years old is gone for me. Like I'm never working again. No one's ever hiring me. And what the hell am I going to do? I'm not qualified to do anything. I don't even know how to be a mom. Like I'm doing my best, but like I don't know what I'm doing. And this was a moment where she was so awesome because she was like, do you think that I didn't drop grocery bags and say I'm a loser? Like, she's like, I felt exactly the same, even though I knew that my calling in life was to be a mum and, you know, I'm one of 4 and she's just the best mum ever. She was like, everyone feels that way at some point and you just have to like give yourself grace and realize that, you know, this is going to pass. Each moment passes and every feeling passes. The good feelings pass and the bad feelings pass and you just have to ride the freaking wave.
It's so true. And it can feel really overwhelming when you're in that state, especially when it's like you feel so far away from who you were at that time. So it's like, it's so easy for me to just like jump on a plane or go do a movie somewhere. And I was like, when I think back to when Eric and I were dating and like, we did not spend a lot of time in the same place. Like he was gone. Right? Yeah, he was gone in like, Canada, and then I would be shooting in LA, and then I would go shoot in like Seattle, and then he'd be shooting in Canada. And like it was just crazy. And so it is interesting when you think about it. I had a friend recently who's an actor who was like, I have this big dilemma and I know that you worked in Toronto, and she was like, and this is what, has been offered to me. And I'm scared because I, this and this. And I was like, look, the biggest thing that you can look at and say is because she has kids as well and they're in school, and when they're rooted in school, that's hard. And when your partner is like in one place, that's hard. And so I said, look at the job, look at your life, look at everything that you have in front of you. Like, are you able to not do the job? Like, do you need it financially? If you don't need it financially, then what do you want for your life? Yes. For the next like year of your life, 2 years of your life, like picture it. Like you're there, you're shooting, like think about the travel back and forth, think about your family that's here, think about all of those things. Like how often can they come see you? Can you bring them with you? And I was like, just think about like, what do you want your life to be? Like, do you want it to, and this is something I have to talk to myself about all the time. I mean, Eric, I'll call Teresa, I'll call Eric. I'm like, what do I want my life to look like?
Did she make a decision?
Yeah. And then she did. She decided not to do it because she was like, if I do it, she was like, I'll be away for my kids and is such an important,
Yeah.
like they're going into their like middle school years.
Mhm.
And it's
Yeah.
like, to her, she's like, it's just such a pivotal moment for them.
Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
was like, and it's okay. Like, I'm okay not doing it. It was just, I think the money was good. And she
Yeah.
was like, just trying to weigh her options, you
Mhm.
know? And so, but yeah, I mean, I think with any job in life, you go, okay, financially, is this like the important choice for me?
Mhm.
And also, what does it look like for my life? Like with my family, and is this what I want? And, you know,
It's hard
is there
because as
something
actors,
else?
I think we was kind of conditioned from the early days to be strike whilst the iron's hot and keep going
That's right.
and work begets work. And if you
True.
say no, it's gone, you know? And so like we have
Yeah.
that mentality of like, I can't turn something down because if I turn down a big opportunity, it's not going to come back
Yeah.
again. And I think
That's
like
right.
one, that's not necessarily true. There's been so many people who've had like amazing careers after taking time off or not working for a while. Look at Jennifer Coolidge, absolutely killing it.
Brendan Fraser.
Love her.
Yeah,
Love her.
exactly.
Love you, Jennifer.
But you know, also it's hard to kind of change that mindset sometimes and realize like, also because
Yeah.
a lot of people depend on you working when you're an actor. You know, there are agents and managers and people
Yes.
who work if you work and who make money if you make money. So you have that kind of sense of responsibility as well. But at the end of the day, like for me personally, my responsibility now is to my family and my kids. And if I love acting and I love doing it, and if I can make it work in a way that isn't going to be a disservice to them, sure.
Amazing.
But until I don't know, we'll see if that job comes up. Maybe one day.
The job's going to come up. Yeah, it's going to come up.
And Claire, because I know you're midway through your pregnancy or almost midway through.
18 weeks, yes.
Yes. Okay. And by the time this comes out, you'll be maybe in 20 something weeks.
By the way, why am I so big already? I don't understand how I have an enormous belly.
I
at
start
18
showing at
weeks.
4 weeks.
Yeah, same. Me too.
Me too this time. I like peed on a stick and I had a pooch.
We're always like, is
Same.
it bloat? Are we bloated? And then we're
No.
like, no, we weren't bloated. That was
Your
was
body
the vibe.
just knows. And so your
Yeah.
uterus is like, whoop, it just like stretches
It's
out
ready.
immediately.
It's enormous. I'm scared for
Oh,
what I'm
it's
going to look like
huge.
at 39 weeks, to be honest, because
Oh my
if this is
God.
what I
It's
look
gonna
like
be
now,
great.
I look like I'm carrying triplets.
Oh
No,
my God, girl.
you look amazing. Are you
Oh,
kidding
How are
me?
you feeling about the birth? Like what do you think about birth in general? Like is it a process that you're like, oof, grit my teeth, got to get through, or you're like, you do enjoy it?
I love it. I tried both times to have a birth without an epidural. The first time around, I got through like 12 hours. The second time around, I got through 19 hours without one. And then I had so much Pitocin and I was so tired. I think I just was like, I can't keep going. This
The
time around,
Pitocin is terrible.
yeah.
Like
And
in terms of what it does to the
Oi.
contractions.
Oh, yeah. Especially with Elle, it was like so much Pitocin. I was at the highest titration of Pitocin with her. And I was really trying because I wanted to have that
Oh,
experience.
girl.
And I think what I realized is, look, I'm just not going to put any conditions on this one. You know, I'm actually delivering in Miami. I delivered my first two in Los Angeles. This one will be in Miami. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what the hospital's like. I don't know what the system's like. I don't even know if I'm going to get my doctor when I'm there. And so I think the only goal that I have is not to be so unbelievably exhausted at the end of it that I'm really struggling going into taking care of a newborn, because I have two others.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if that means that it's a really quick labor and I don't need any kind of epidural or anything, awesome. If it means that I have to be induced, if it means that it's longer, a C-section, whatever it looks like I'm kind of at peace with it, which is a nice thing. I've also had,
Oh, how
you know,
nice.
my pushing stage is always quite short, and for me, it's really beautiful. And so I've had the experience of having two beautiful vaginal deliveries, and I know how much I love it. If I get that, amazing. And if I don't, you know, I'll get a baby. So it's fine.
Oh, how wonderful. That's so.
Are you jealous? I always get
is-
jealous of women who get to like give birth. It's my favorite.
I'm so jealous.
And you never get that first time back. Like the transition from not being a mother into being a mother and those
Yeah,
like
it's
last
major.
weeks of pregnancy and it's all like exciting
Wild.
and new and
I know, it's amazing, right? You're like, is it today? Is it tomorrow? Is it, when is it?
Yes. That is my favorite time. That time of like the last, I mean, I know it's a lot because, you know, those last couple of weeks you're like so tired and you're just like so spent. But I also really love it because I'm like, I don't think I've ever felt more present in my life than the time that I'm like waiting on baby and just really going internal. Like I'm going in and having conversations with this human that's inside of me. And like laying on my bed and like napping and daydreaming and, you know, like just reading birth stories and like going back and thinking about other, but it's just like, it's just such a cool, it's so cool that we get to do this.
It really is the most amazing thing. Like this was 10% of my decision to have another child, just that getting to do childbirth again. Like I really love it. I think it's amazing. It's so much fun.
Me too. I just feel so mighty and powerful.
You really do.
Like you're like, it's bizarre. My daughter saw me give birth to my third, and she saw it over FaceTime because, like, of course, it was 2020, so she was watching over FaceTime. And afterwards, she was like, "Do I have to do that?" And I was like,
only if you want to.
You don't have to, but you get to, you know, like you have all the makings of being able to do it if you want to. And she was like, yeah, I don't think I want to do that.
That's for me. I had a moment of that when I saw my sister birth the placenta. I was like, do I?
It's a lot.
That's intense, but no. It's really like, it's so, for me, it's like such an amazing feeling. And the other beautiful thing, I never loved my body more than after I gave birth. Like when it was milky and floppy, and I was just like so enamored with myself for growing this like my new favorite thing in the whole world. And I'd always had this really like fractured relationship with my body. And then when I had kids, like after, I still kind of find the pregnancy part like a little like sweaty and uncomfortable and difficult, but the aftermath, the postpartum, where you're still like, you're just there to keep someone else alive. For me, I just felt really beautiful.
I love that. I love that you shared that too, because I think that there's like a lot of people feel this pressure to look a certain way or feel a certain way afterwards. And I do remember having this moment where my postpartum doula was in the room with me and my baby was like laying on this very squishy pouch where the baby used to live, like laying on top of my, you know, deflated belly, and I'm like leaking milk, and I just was smiling so hard, and I was just like, oh my God, like this is so cool that now this baby is here. But I mean, I feel like there's a lot of pressure to look a certain way because of course, what we talked about earlier, this whole Instagram highlight life. But like, we should also really honor and praise and love and uphold that belly that kind of just flops down.
And the skin. I always love the skin like after the fact, which is so crazy to say that you like, but I would bend over. I was actually talking to our mutual friend Jess about it the other day because she was like, I love this bit like where I bend over and I've got this like little bit because it reminds me of like I had a baby in there, I carried a child. And it's true, I think it's like really, you know, of course you have moments where you're like, ugh, I don't feel like myself and I just want to like wear normal. Oh, my child's around. Hi JJ, can you shut that baby? Hi mom, hold on. Hi mom. 1 second, hold on.
Yeah, no worries.
I love it.
Hold on, my other one's coming.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, you guys Andy, can you grab them? Hold on.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Oh, they're so cute.
We've gone to the dogs, guys. We've gone to the dogs. JJ, will you go find Daddy?
Oh my God.
No. Please. Sorry, 1 second.
This is the best.
It's the best.
Motherhood in real time.
That's right.
That is so funny seeing Claire in the background with the
I know,
kid
it's
under
so
her arm.
good.
I knew that was going to happen at some
God.
point. I knew I was
You're
talking
so
too long.
cute. Your
Yes,
belly,
well, we're wrapping up now
Okay,
anyway.
sorry,
but
guys.
Go wrap
God.
up now anyway.
How many times has that happened to you doing your podcast?
Almost
Every single
almost every time.
I got to learn to
every
lock the
single
door.
time.
Oh,
I
and now
have
I'm
to
out of
keep
breath.
I locked my door. I have to keep muting my mic because like Poet keeps like banging on the door like, Mom. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in the middle of a podcast.
Yeah.
Like, please.
Thank God we're doing a podcast about this.
I know.
About
Exactly.
motherhood.
I was like, motherhood in real time. Woo!
Yes.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Ay.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh,
Amazing.
Claire, thank
You
you
guys,
so
thank
much
you.
for coming on and doing the show. You are just such an inspiration. I
Thank
love
you. Likewise.
I love everything that, and you know, we were just ended up talking right before all of that. We were talking
Yeah.
about bodies, and I
Yes.
just so appreciate the body talk because it's a reframe. There's definitely a reframe that I've had to do,
Yes.
you know, for my body. And like that moment where I'm doing yoga and I look down at the belly and the hanging down skin and I'm like, that's not what it used to
you
look
feel
like.
uncomfortable
Oh
sometimes.
You
God.
feel uncomfortable because you're like, what is all that wrinkly
Yep.
stuff now? It's been quite a few years since my last baby was going
Yeah,
on. That's still
Yeah,
there.
same.
But
I
you
know.
know what? The reframe is so beautiful to like honor and love and be so grateful for the fact that we got to do this. And then that's what my body is. And I mean, I'm healthy. My babies are healthy. Like,
I know.
it's just great. I just so appreciate you talking about that and all of the things you talked about.
Yeah,
Oh,
in
thank
general,
you.
you're like such a ray of light. And talking to you, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I miss you. I want to hang out with you.
I know,
You live in Miami now. I'm like,
same.
I need to just
I
come to
know.
Miami.
I know. Anyone, doors open. Or
my
I'll be in LA
goodness.
as well. I'd love to hang out.
Love to
Oh,
catch up and meet your
guys, I
new little
know.
one.
I know. I'm so
know.
excited.
Oh, well, thank you so much,
thank
you
you.
guys.
Lots of love to you
have
guys.
been listening to the Mother Days. You can find us wherever you get to your podcasts, Apple, Spotify. I'm not the best at doing this wrap up, but there you
You're
go.
nailing it.
And if you guys, if you love this episode, please share it. Leave us a comment, review. We love it so much. It means so much to us. We love you, daisies. Thank you,
I love
Claire.
you, daisies.
Bye, Claire.